Long before skyscrapers, New York City was home to the Lenape people. The Lenape lived along rivers and forests in Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, and Staten Island. They hunted deer, fished, and grew corn, beans, and squash. Their villages of bark-covered wigwams nestled in the woods. Their trails became city roads. Their names still echo in places like Canarsie and Rockaway. Before steel and stone, the Lenape watched over this land. In 1624, a ship from Holland arrived at the southern tip of Manhattan. The Dutch called their new settlement New Amsterdam. It was meant to be a trading post for the Dutch West India Company. The city's first buildings were simple wooden huts and a windmill. At first, only a few dozen people lived there, but soon more settlers came. The Dutch quickly set up trade with the Lenape. They wanted furs, especially beaver pelts, to send back to Europe. In 1626, legend says, the Dutch bought Manhattan from the Lenape for goods worth 60 guilders, about $24. This exchange was misunderstood, but it marked the start of a new era. The city grew around a fort and busy docks on the tip of the island. New Amsterdam was lively and diverse from the start. Dutch, Africans, some enslaved, Jews, Walloons, and others called it home. The city's first synagogue and first church were both built here. The Dutch influence can still be seen in names like Haarlem, Brooklyn, Breukelen, and the Bowery, which comes from Bowery, meaning farm. The Dutch left their mark with traditions like Santa Claus, from Sinterklaas, and the love of stoops. Though their rule lasted only 40 years, the Dutch spirit of trade and openness still shapes New York City today. In 1664, British ships sailed into the harbor and demanded the surrender of New Amsterdam. The Dutch governor, Peter Stuyvesant, tried to resist, but the settlers wanted peace. The city changed hands without a fight. The British renamed it New York, after the Duke of York, brother to King Charles II. Under British rule, New York began to grow quickly. The city became a busy port, linking the American colonies to Europe and the Caribbean. Wealthy merchants built fine houses along the streets. Slavery was part of life. The docks were worked by enslaved Africans, and auctions were held in the city square. Life under the British was not always easy. In 1712, there was a slave revolt. Fires and fear swept through the city. The British also imposed taxes and strict rules, which upset many colonists. Still, the city thrived. Churches, schools, and businesses sprang up. The city's first newspaper, the New York Gazette, started printing in 1725. By the mid-1700s, New York was the second largest city in the colonies. The seeds of freedom and revolution were being planted in its crowded streets and bustling taverns. The city was changing fast, ready for its next big role in American history. As the 1700s rolled on, New York City became a center of protest. Colonists gathered in taverns to argue against British taxes. The Sons of Liberty, a group of rebels, met under the Liberty Tree to plan their next moves. Tensions ran high, and British soldiers marched through the streets. When war broke out in 1775, New York was a key target. George Washington and his troops tried to defend the city, but the British captured it after the Battle of Brooklyn in 1776. New York became the British headquarters for most of the war. Many homes were burned, and thousands of people fled. The city's harbor was crowded with warships, and the jails were full of prisoners. Yet, the spirit of freedom stayed alive. Spies and secret messages crisscrossed the city. The famous Culper Ring, led by ordinary citizens, helped gather intelligence for Washington. When the British finally left in 1783, the city celebrated with fireworks and parades. After the war, New York quickly rebuilt. In 1789, George Washington was sworn in as the nation's first president on Wall Street. The revolution had changed the city forever, setting it on a path toward greatness. The 1800s brought huge changes to New York City. The city's waterfront, bustled with ships from around the world. The Erie Canal, completed in 1825, linked the city to the Midwest. This made New York the busiest port in America. Goods, people, and ideas flowed in every direction. As business boomed, the city grew northward. New neighborhoods sprang up. The grid system, straight streets and avenues, replaced the old winding lanes. Broadway became a famous street, lined with theaters and shops. Wall Street grew into the country's financial center, filled with banks and stockbrokers. Industry brought jobs, but also problems. Factories filled the air with smoke. Poor immigrants crowded into tenements. Disease and fires were common. But people kept coming, drawn by the promise of work and freedom. The city's population soared from 60,000 in 1800 to over 3 million by 1900. Even with its struggles, New York shined as a place of opportunity. Grand buildings like City Hall and Central Park were built. The city's mix of wealth and poverty, joy and hardship, gave it a special energy that never faded. The late 1800s and early 1900s were ages of immigration. Millions arrived at Ellis Island: Irish, Italians, Jews, Germans, Chinese, and others. They brought new languages, foods, and traditions. Each group shaped city life, from Little Italy to Chinatown. Inventions and industry transformed daily living. The Brooklyn Bridge, finished in 1883, connected Manhattan and Brooklyn. Subways began running in 1904, making the city faster and bigger. Tall buildings, called skyscrapers, soared into the sky. The Flatiron Building and later the Empire State Building became world famous. Immigrants crowded into small apartments, but they built strong communities. They opened shops, started newspapers, and formed unions. Labor strikes and protests called for better wages and safer working conditions. The city's diversity became its strength. Through invention and hard work, New York became the gateway to America. It stood as a symbol of hope, a place where anyone could start a new life. The city was changing fast, and honestly, the world was watching. New York's skyline kept climbing. In the 1930s, the Empire State Building became the tallest building on Earth. The Chrysler Building and Rockefeller Center showed the city's love of art and ambition. Skyscrapers became symbols of hope during the Great Depression when jobs were scarce and lines for food stretched for blocks. The city faced hard times. The Depression brought poverty and struggle, but music, art, and sports thrived. Jazz filled Harlem clubs. Baseball fans cheered at Yankee Stadium. When World War II began, New York became a center for soldiers, supplies, and news. Tragedy struck on September 11, 2001. Terrorists destroyed the World Trade Center, killing nearly 3,000 people. The city mourned, but it also stood strong. People helped each other, and the world watched New York's courage. A new tower, One World Trade Center, now rises where the old towers stood. From triumphs to trials, New York's story is one of resilience. Its skyline, shaped by steel and dreams, tells a tale of hope, heartbreak, and new beginnings. New York is famous for its diversity. Over 200 languages are spoken here. Neighborhoods like Harlem, Chinatown, and Little Italy are filled with unique sights and sounds. People from every continent live side by side, sharing food, music, and traditions. The city's culture is rich and bold. Broadway is the heart of American theater. Museums like the Met and MoMA hold treasures from around the world. Jazz, hip-hop, punk, and salsa all found a home here. Writers, artists, and filmmakers come to be inspired by the city's energy. Food is another story. Pizza, bagels, dim sum, and street tacos. Every meal is a journey. The city's restaurants reflect its people, with flavors from every country. Festivals, parades, and street fairs fill the calendar. The city never sleeps, and there's always something to do. New York influences the world. Its style, art, and ideas spread far beyond its borders. The city's pulse is global, but its heart is local, made strong by the millions who call it home. Today, New York City stands as a symbol of hope and possibility. Its skyline glows with glass towers and neon lights. The city is a leader in business, fashion, media, and science. Wall Street's decisions affect economies worldwide. Tech companies, startups, and artists all find a place here. The city's true magic is its people. New Yorkers are tough but kind. They work hard, speak their minds, and dream big. Every block has a story. From quiet parks to busy subways, the city's energy is endless. In times of trouble, New Yorkers come together, helping, rebuilding, and moving forward. Art and food are everywhere. Street art covers walls. Food trucks and fancy restaurants serve every taste. Music and dance light up the night. The city's schools and universities attract students from every country. Every day, new ideas are born on its busy sidewalks. New York is special because it never stops changing. Its spirit is bold, creative, and welcoming. From Lenape trails to today's global city, New York's story is one of hope, a place where anyone can belong and where the world comes to dream.